Today, a fabulous fiddler. He is so good, the Stradivarius Society loans him a violin so he can make mesmerizing music for himself and his worldwide fans. Straight-talking Israeli violinist Vadim Gluzman is here. He has deep musical roots and the honor of being mentored by the late and incredible violinist Isaac Stern. The gregarious Gluzman was once a problem child who grew up in the former Soviet Union. He was a rule breaker who was often thrown out of school and sometimes out of the orchestra. Today, he only gets rave reviews. Stay with us for Vadim Gluzman. It's good to be here with you today and with renegade master musician, world-class fiddle player Vadim Gluzman. His fiddle is a Stradivarius and his talent immense. Vadim was born in the former Soviet Union. Today he is an Israeli citizen and a resident of the United States. The fact he plays on one of the most important violins on the planet only enhances his musical heft. I suspect for him a violin concerto is a bit of a walk in the park. Or am I exaggerating?
You are.
Welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
When you play for an orchestra like the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra, who runs the show? The conductor? You? The first violinist?
It's all of the above. We all do it together. It is never. I'm called a soloist, but we cannot really call it a one-man show. Not at all. It is really a group effort, and not just conductor, just soloist, and the first violinist. It's the entire orchestra. It is the effort of everyone on stage.
Last time you were here, I recall, you were with Maestro Toby.
That's right.
And this time, a guest conductor from the United States, James Gaffigan.
That's right.
Tell me about him.
Well, James is a fantastic talent. This is the second time that we're working together. The first time we played together was in San Francisco with the San Francisco Symphony. And this was maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And I was already impressed back then. Really a tremendous presence on stage, incredibly elegant, sophisticated, and a lot of fun to work with too. And I was very happy to see him on the schedule for this weekend in Vancouver, and we have plans for next year as well. He's someone to watch.
And young, like
very
you.
Young, even younger.
Really?
Yes.
And you're not 40 yet.
Not yet. But
This
very
year?
soon, very soon.
How do you celebrate your birthdays when you have a schedule like you have?
I will tell you my plans for my upcoming birthday. I will manage to celebrate it with my family in Israel, and that very evening I will have to fly to Norway and start rehearsals the next morning.
And your wife is a incredible pianist, and sometimes you play together.
Yes, we do, very often actually. We play together, we record together. We've been playing together for over 20 years now.
Who taught you to play the violin originally?
Well, my first teacher back in city called Riga, his name was Roman Schnee. He's still there. He is well over 80 years old and he's still teaching. And I go back to Riga from time to give concerts, and I always come to his class, and I always, I'm in awe in front of his unbelievable patience. This is, to be teaching young children and to be teaching young children like I was, it really is, it's an inhuman effort, I think.
Let's talk about how you were, because rumor has it you like to go to the movies and play hockey or watch hockey instead of practice the violin.
Well, who doesn't?
Well, true.
Of course. And I made sure that I did all of that. I devised all sorts of excuses not to go to school. Once I realized that there was this special program in school which was called special attendance. It meant that if you announced that you are preparing for a competition, you were given a free hand in terms of attending regular curriculum lessons. You only had to do exams at the end of the semester or so. And I would announce that I'm preparing for competitions. And if that was all true, I would have been a professional competitor. But instead I went to the movies. I've seen every new film that came out. I played hockey. I Never broke any bones. That was a good thing.
That's good.
Yeah.
So competitions were pretty rigorous, I would think.
Yeah, that's why I never went.
I see. Instead, you went to the movies.
Of course.
So when did you know that this was your heart and soul, playing the violin?
There is not one moment that you can pinpoint, I think. First performance, the first real concert that I played, maybe it was, I must have been 8 or 9, and I felt something happened on stage. There was this undescribable, really, connection with the audience. This electricity that you can't touch, but you know it's there. And that is addictive.
I'm sure. Talk to a rock star, anybody who performs on a world stage. You once said, and I hope this is right, I do not play violin to be liked by others. I play violin because I need to play.
I absolutely have to play, yeah.
How often do you practice?
Nowadays, no movies for me.
I bet. So when you prepare for a performance, you were just in Prague and in Vienna, and you're on your way to Seattle. How long does it take you on game day?
Well, on game day, there is always a rehearsal in the morning, and then I need some time by myself, a couple of hours, to work over certain things that I was not satisfied with in rehearsal, and then the show.
And do you work hungry, as they say, in that you don't have a big bowl of spaghetti before the concert, or do you eat and carry on normally?
I used to going on stage hungry and then having grand dinners after the show. And then I realized that if I continue to do so, I would have to change my wardrobe very, very regularly.
I see.
So I decided to change my habits a bit.
Do you have you obviously have an agent.
Of course.
Do you have somebody who's in charge of wardrobe?
No.
No.
Besides my wife.
Okay, and she gives you the odd hint.
Yes.
Isaac Stern, the late great, I had the privilege, as you know, of interviewing him, and he taught me how to make a martini, which he called the Stern-tini. We talked about violins because he played much better than I did. And when you met him in Israel, did you know about him?
Well, I knew of Isaac Stern. I knew the name. I knew the great violinist. But I have absolutely no idea of who he really was besides violin. There was so much more. From the fact that this was the man who saved Carnegie Hall to the fact that practically every cultural institution in Israel was in existence thanks to his efforts, be it through his performances or fundraising. I mean, he never stopped. From Israel Philharmonic to American-Israel Cultural Foundation, etc., etc., etc. So I arrived to Jerusalem Music Center because I heard that he was listening to young violinists, and the lady at the reception asked me what was I looking for. So I told her. She said, "That's wonderful. Welcome to the club." This audition was arranged 2 years in advance. I really had no understanding. I was, I think, 2 weeks fresh from the boat. And my luck was that he entered the reception area at that very moment, and he kept walking, pointed at me, said, "Who is this?" And she said, "There is a boy from Ra'anana, he wants to play for you." And he said, "Go and warm up."
And do you remember what you played?
I think it was La Lo Symphonie Espagnole. I think. This is a few years ago.
How old were you?
I was 16.
16. Yeah. And he said, after your performance?
He basically crashed my world. Imagine a kid who grew up in the Soviet system, and no matter how rebellious I was rebellious. But I grew up in a certain system, and a certain set of values was installed. And that was that one has to be a soloist. If you are not a soloist, you are the greatest failure that ever existed. And then Isaac tells me that this is all wonderful, but now you go back to school and you start playing chamber music. You play second violin in a string quartet.
Really? Why?
To a Soviet kid, this was a sky came crashing down on my head. But because I was stubborn, I went back and I did get 3 of my friends to come and side read with me, string quartets.
Yes.
And I sat on the second violin chair and we started playing, and I realized that I'm not capable of keeping up the line. I had no idea of how to play alla prima vista. I had no idea how to play chamber music, how to play with others. And from that point on, next 2 years, I didn't play anything else but chamber music. And thanks to that moment, I think I am the musician that I am today.
Why?
Because that opened up every sense that I had and still have. And it taught me communication. This was one thing that we never were exposed to back in Soviet Union, was the communication.
Because it was so rigid.
Absolutely.
And rigidity, as you know so well, can kill creativity, pretty much.
Not only can, it does.
It does. So Isaac Stern, making you play second violin in the quartet, sent you on a path that has been pretty phenomenal.
Well, I will be grateful as long as I live, that's for sure.
When music comes together, there is always a composer and an audience and a performer. It's a triumvirate, really.
That's very true.
What if the audience is passive? Dare I say, difficult? What's it like for you, the performer?
It means an extra effort, but then it takes 2 to tango. If an audience is passive or difficult, as you said, it probably means that the performer is not doing the most that he or she can to bring them in. I don't believe that there are passive audiences. Just like I don't believe there are untalented people. There's simply circumstances are not developed enough.
Right. Now, this violin, when we come back from the break, I want you to tell me about the Stradivarius, why you play it, how you got it, and to tantalize everyone, the bow, just the bow. It doesn't necessarily go with the violin. It's a bow from somewhere else,
Absolutely.
right? Made by?
Dominique Pecat.
And if I wanted to buy Dominique Pecat bow, what would it set me back? How much?
$250,000.
$250,000.
More or less.
Oh, not a problem.
No.
Okay. Vadim Gluzman, my guest. We will return with Ukrainian-Israeli violinist Vadim. He is one of classical music's most exciting young stars. Still young, not 40.